Greetings, building science enthusiasts, and welcome back to the Building Science Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Aprilaire, the trusted leader in indoor quality solutions. Through their understanding of consumer needs for indoor air quality and HVAC channel expertise, they help home builders leverage the full value and benefits of healthy home solutions. Aprilaire products meet the consumer desire for healthier, cleaner, more efficient homes. We've incorporated Aprilaire products into our designs for years because they provide real value for engineered systems. For their full product line, check out aprilaire.com/BSP. That's air with an E. The first step towards a healthier home is at aprilaire.com/BSP. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the episode. Welcome to this. Okay. Welcome to the
Building Science Podcast.
Welcome to the Building Science Podcast.
Bringing the human factor to architecture and design.
Brought to you by Positive Energy in Austin, Texas.
Okay, hello and welcome back, everybody. Hello and welcome back to the Building Science Podcast. I'm Kristof, your host, as always, and I am not here today with my trusty producer, Miguel. He is home dealing with a fever flu thing. I hope you feel better soon, Miguel. Instead, I'm here with a good friend and colleague on the Building Enclosure Council of the local AIA. I'm here with Trevor Brown from J.E. Dunn, and I'm going to make it easy for me and let you introduce yourself, Trevor.
Thank you very much. My name is Trevor Brown with J.E. Dunn Construction. I've been in the quality control side of construction for almost 20 years now.
Wow.
And for the last 12 years, I've been with J.E. Dunn Construction as the quality control manager.
And you just got selected for some, was it some sort of management? Oh, I don't remember what it's called. There was a contest with J.E. Dunn, and you got selected to go to a training somewhere.
Oh yeah, I was actually the second person in the quality control department to run through their leadership training program. So
that's a big deal. Congratulations! Yeah. And that was like a couple years ago, or a year ago.
Last year, yeah. So it was 4 training sessions. They're 3 to 4 days apiece with the senior leadership of the company. You read books together, you discuss the books, and then they go through kind of what got them into their position.
Wow.
Through leadership. Yeah.
And so there's no formal curriculum. It's just this open Q&A or discussion. That sounds cool.
There is a set curriculum for it, and we do have a training and development director who kind of handles that. They also bring in outside speakers who run their own firms or their own companies and give us leadership pointers and, kind of talk about their leadership journey. And, one of the books we read was called What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Mm.
And, it's kind of that process. What got you into management won't get you into leadership. So it's, trying to determine what areas and aspects of your career you need to work on to get to a leadership position.
I like it.
And not just stay in middle management.
Mm-hmm. So they're investing in you. They've selected you carefully. They've invested time and resources to train you to be a leader, and they're training you to be a leader in QC. Is that right? Quality control?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, so our company structure is maybe a little bit different than most general contractors. A lot of general contractors will have field, and they'll have project management or operations and maybe pre-construction department, and then maybe quality and maybe safety. Ours is set up a little bit different. We have what's called our IPS department. So it's
IPS?
Yeah, Integrated Project Services.
All right.
We're kind of the support role department, and so that covers safety, scheduling, quality, lean and sustainability, scheduling, and then our VDC and BIM department.
Right on. Hey, before we go farther, for you listeners, I should have talked about what the topic is. So the introduction got right into the topic. Today we are talking about the aspect of delivering buildings to ourselves that is not often talked about. It's like we prefer to talk about technology and systems and less about process. So we're hoping to talk about process today, although Trevor knows an awful lot about enclosure consulting and products and materials. That's part of your role because you just said quality control.
Right. I almost act as an in-house consultant for the third-party skin reviews and product selections and dealing with trade partners, coordinating details, drawing details.
Oh, you would draw your own details?
Yes.
That's fantastic. Okay, so let's just start at the beginning then. You get a new project, and J.E. Dunn has a group of people that are going to interface with the owner. Are you part of that group?
Typically not.
Okay.
It depends on the type of project. So when we're going out to bid on a project and we're going to interview on a project, depending on what the request for qualifications is, or if quality is heavy in their requirements, they'll typically bring me on board from day one.
Interesting. What if quality is not?
I'll go to the interview, right? And I'll be involved from the interview process through pre-construction all the way through the finish of the project. If it's just a hard bid project where they know the owner's going to build it and then sell it, typically quality is not a high priority for them. It's more cost-based. And so I'm typically not involved as early in that process.
There's a lot there. I mean, you can feel it. There's a lot there. We have this term, hard bid, which is a polite way of saying it's not about the quality. It's about what it looks like.
It's about the cost.
Yeah. So you said bid phase. Let's talk about that bid phase. What would be your role in bid phase? And before you go there, what kind of projects are you usually working on?
Typically, here in the Austin market, we're doing a lot of high-rise student apartment buildings, healthcare, hospital work, K through 12.
Oh, fantastic.
So schools, public buildings. And then we also recently got a project doing a central utility plant for TFC.
Whoa.
So
these are big projects, big infrastructure projects.
Yes.
Wow.
We do a lot of office buildings as well. High-rise office. Yeah.
So the bid phase. You just said you would be involved during the bid phase. What would your role be in that?
So typically our pre-construction department, so our pre-con managers, as they gather bids from the trade partners, they'll put them together in their bid tabs. On the skin contractors is typically where they'll call me in and say, hey, did this guy capture everything?
Ooh.
Are these numbers whole? And then, if I've got 4 trade partners in the bid tab, they'll ask me to go through it with the pre-con manager to make sure they're not missing anything. So a lot of times they'll bid on, say, a waterproofing system, and they'll tell them, hey, I'm using Carlisle Baratech. Well, that's only one component of a system. And so you need to make sure they have all the proper flashing, sealants, primers, and making sure they're not missing those.
Yeah. And do you end up product neutral, or do you end up with biases towards certain manufacturers' products?
I definitely have biases towards manufacturers, right? Based on experience and testing, and that's not fair to say that all products don't have a place in construction or in the industry. It's just that some are easier to install, or some are simpler to install, and some can be more complex. And based on our labor market right now, we try to keep it
tight, right?
Simple as possible.
Yeah. That there's another thing we have keep it as simple as possible to make the labor market interchangeable in some sense.
Correct.
Which is another aspect. But so another differentiator between manufacturers that I experience, both mechanical side and enclosure side, is access to information. Right? Some of them it's easier, some of them it's harder, and that seems to be one of your roles. Is you're helping information flow effectively during the bid phase, right?
That's correct.
And actually, you keep information flowing all the way through a project, right?
Right. So as the pre-con managers are getting information in, this is the basis of design. So I'll read through the specifications to make sure that the products submitted are matching for the basis of design and meeting the project requirements, and then dealing with the manufacturers. So I have good relationships with the manufacturers' technical representatives, and it's easy to get information flowing back and forth, between our team, the trade partners team, and the manufacturer of the products.
Okay, so remind me, I didn't take notes on it, but you said bid phase, so you're supporting bids, safety, QC, so you're doing a lot of things. So one project at a time? How does that work?
No.
Wow.
We're set to break ground on 10 new projects this year.
Oh my gosh.
And the total contract values are about $380 million.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just in the Austin market. So we're getting ready to start those projects, and we won't bill that much for the year, but that's the total contract values for those jobs. And some of those jobs will stretch out 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can feel it. There's a topic behind the topics that we're going to be talking about today, which is how do you deal with multiple conflicting demands for your time and attention? How do you deal with multitasking? How do you stay sane and be a good dad and granddad?
That's the difficult part. I recently hired another person, so I'm in the process of training a pretty young new hire.
That's a lucky person.
Yeah, her name's Alex. She's doing a great job.
Oh,
and then
fantastic.
I have another guy starting in June, and he'll be dedicated full-time to one project, a big project here in town.
Wow. And they'll be your point of contact. So you said you do bid phase support sometimes or all the time?
No, on every project.
Okay, and then you do safety, QC. What was another?
We have dedicated safety staff.
Oh.
Now, I'll do safety when I'm on site, but our IPS division...
That's what it was. IPS division is doing these things,
set up
not
separately,
you.
so there's a safety department with a separate safety manager.
And IPS was integrated...
Project
services.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have a mechanical engine, an MEP support staff person.
Oh, wow.
A VDC support staff person, a scheduling support
and
staff
VDC
person.
is what?
Virtual design and construction.
Oh.
So that
that's
covers...
like BIM kind of stuff.
Well, it's BIM, augmented reality. There's some other stuff that they're working on. Wow. We have some proprietary systems that we use in our pre-construction that they deal with as well.
Wow, what a challenge. You give me so many different directions to take these questions. Let's go back to the one that we're ostensibly working on, because augmented reality is obviously
interesting
something
topic.
I want to get into. But so you meet the client, and let's just set a good high bar and say the client is very interested in quality.
Okay.
And then how would that change? How would that change the early phase of your client communication?
It actually makes it a lot easier for us, because we know that they're invested
harder to do
in the project. So, like Seton, we built the Seton Teaching Hospital. We knew the client was concerned about quality. They're going to own and manage and operate the building for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, when they're talking about designing and building a 100-year structure and 40-year windows and 50-year building skin.
Go Seton.
Yeah, you're trying to take those things into consideration. You're trying to pick durable, resilient materials for that construction.
Wow.
Now...
don't say an alternative to that.
I won't say any names, but the initial weather barrier on the project was mechanically fastened commercial building wrap.
Oh wow!
Which is not a durable, resilient material for a long-term project, and so we talked him into switching to a thick mill liquid applied weather barrier. And it's stuff like that. You can have those conversations where money isn't always the driving factor.
Yeah, long-term value should be really important.
Right. And then the mock-up process for a project like that is so much easier as well, because you're able to build these big, elaborate mock-ups, and then you can test and retest.
That is awesome. So tell me a little more about mock-ups. I hadn't thought about that as an important topic.
Sure.
But it is, isn't it? It's important.
Yeah, it's very important.
So it's not just what it looks like, it's how it's going to function.
Right. So
spray rigs can be applied to a mock-up and stuff.
Oh, yeah. So at J.E. Dunn, we'll test the mock-ups, almost every mock-up. What do you mean
every mock-up? There's like window assemblies, foundation assemblies?
Yeah, on the exterior skin, we're going to test them. Water penetration testing, air leakage testing, pull tests on sealants and peel and stick products, compatibility and adhesion testing, those types of things.
I love it.
And then the aesthetics will follow up later, but I get involved. I get to have it from the start.
It's funny, when I think of a mock-up, I think of it as an aesthetic component to it.
Yeah, we try to not make it
So you mean the control layer mock-ups is what you got.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, the Seton project, one of my favorite ones. So we're building pre-manufactured wall panels at a warehouse off-site.
Really?
Shipping them to the job and then flying them in place. And so This is a system we hadn't built before. It was new to us, new to the designer.
Yeah,
and
new to the market somewhat.
Somewhat new to the market. I mean, we prefab for a while, but it's just a different configuration and a different assembly. But we were able to build the panels at the warehouse, and then we did air leakage testing, water penetration testing on different components and different ways to assemble it to figure out what was the best potential outcome for the project. So once we finished that round of testing, we went to the manufacturer, who in this case was Tremco,
Mm-hmm.
and they were working with us. They have a test wall facility in Cleveland, Ohio. So we actually sent them the building components. They built a wall there at their mock-up facility and then tested for structural performance,
Whoa,
deflection.
what do you mean by structural? They can put loads on it? Like
Yeah.
wind loads and such?
Wind loads, yep. Structural loads.
Not seismic.
No, they didn't do seismic,
Yeah.
but we had a 1-inch deflection joint from slab to slab,
Oh.
and they would test the joint movement capability. So they were testing for deflection, structure, air leakage, water penetration.
Wow. Did you get to go see that?
Yeah.
That was-
Yeah, they flew us up, myself and another quality control manager, and witnessed the testing. So
That's really cool.
Spent a couple days up there.
So every project gets a mock-up for all the critical control layer components and connections, right? Wall, foundation, roof, wall.
Yeah, typically the projects we're building are bigger in scale.
Yeah.
$5 million and up, we're probably going to build a mock-up.
Yeah.
Smaller than that, they might be more of an in-place mock-up or more of an aesthetic mock-up.
Okay. And then so, one of the main goals of this episode today is to talk about, information flow on the job site to lead to good outcomes. But as we can tell already, it starts before it gets to the job site. But when you just talked about an in-place mock-up, I imagine that would be used as a backdrop to an interactive component of a training for installation. Is that right?
Yeah, the in-place mock-ups are typically going to be finished work in place.
And so it gets critiqued or tested in place?
Yeah.
Wait. It's not the whole wall, though. It would be like you started and you're seeing how we doing, right?
No, it could be a whole wall.
Whoa, and so if you messed up, you'd tear it down?
Yeah, we would have to tear it down. Now, typically, we try to stay away from in-place mock-ups because you don't get as much value out of it.
You don't really call it a mock-up. You just say, I started building.
It's the initial work, right? And you're testing the initial work.
Yeah.
But usually on cost-based projects with owners who are strictly concerned about cost and schedule and delivery, they'll push for kind of an in-place mock-up. We really try to steer them away from that. Do a standalone mock-up that we can test as the structure's coming out of the ground. That way we can get all the lessons learned and apply them to construction way before we even get there. When you're doing the in-place mock-up, it's too late. Because whatever lessons you're going to learn and whatever processes you're going to change, you've already lost that value.
Yeah, what a shame. It's a little bit politically sensitive, but I don't like that idea that low first cost is a driver of construction, and yet of course it is. It matters. I was just visiting family in Switzerland, in Basel, Switzerland, and was walking around some 700-year-old buildings. And I realized there's probably no mock-up for that, but there was a guild. There was a journeyman apprentice, and you could make a multiple generation career, being a mason.
You had skilled labor.
Yeah. So we're you, J.E. Dunn, other quality GCs are put into a position where you need to rethink the construction process because of the labor pool changes and the material changes.
Because cost is a driving factor. If you can't accurately manage the risk on the job, you have to price the risk, right? So you either have to buy more insurance, or you have to know that you're going to have to additional management to monitor on-site production. So really, you're kind of balancing your risk options.
So if you can't manage the risk, that means if you can't be sure that the wall's not going to leak, you're going to make sure you buy more insurance.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the cost of insurance could be additional insurance, some sort of subguard default insurance, and maybe it's additional manpower or management to help manage that trade partner.
Interesting. And
a lot more oversight.
Yeah, a lot more oversight. And you can actually have physical structures as insurance, like a backup. Because you were just looking at your phone right before this interview, looking at a foundation detail, and
right.
there were belt and suspender approach. And,
that's correct.
Yeah. But that's actually not going to help with low first cost.
No.
All right, so you're involved in information flow. Let's say you've gone through the bid phase, you've done a great deal of work, which actually seems like an impossible amount of work to be doing on 10 projects at once. But you're doing that. And then construction has started on these projects. Let's say there is a mock-up, we have a quality project, quality concerned owner. Hooray for them. Yeah, long-term owners is a good thing. And now, what happens next with your role? You go to the site and you supervise the construction of the mock-up, or?
Correct. Yeah, so as the mock-up's starting, so let me back up a little bit.
Please.
So it's not just getting involved in bid tabs and sub-selection, material selection, but we also do a peer review on the drawings, so we're marking up all the details.
Oh my goodness.
Making sure we have the right details for the right application in the project. So once we've vetted out that process, we do a sit-down with the architect, design team, owner, do a page turn, discuss our concerns with constructability and detailing. Then we start picking mock-up components.
Oh boy, was I ahead of the gun.
Yeah, you're way ahead. It starts way earlier.
And so, I don't want to go through all those in gory detail. We'll never get through this, but like the architectural, back and forth with the architect, is that fairly quick and transactional, or is it protracted?
Most of the project teams...
You've worked with that architect or something.
Well, they understand construction, but maybe not to the technical detail level that I would typically handle. So a lot of time they'll give me free rein to just, hey, call the architect, talk about the details. When you guys finalize it, let me know. We'll submit the RFI to get it written into the contract documents.
I see. And the architect will be redrafting based on your input.
Yes, typically.
And so what else was in that causal chain between bid and anything else?
So we're doing peer reviews, bid tab reviews.
And peer review, stop there. That's in-house?
Yeah, that's in-house peer reviews.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then you said tab review?
The bid tab review, which is
right.
selecting their subs numbers, and then also material selection at that point.
Wow.
So steering a manufacturer, because a lot of times the trade partners have specific manufacturers that they prefer to work with.
Which is legit.
They get preferred
to be concerned
pricing.
about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a lot of times they don't necessarily...
Oh, and they get preferred pricing. Not always what's best, but what they get preferred pricing.
Exactly. It's what's best for them.
Uh-huh.
And so there's some back and forth between, does it meet the basis of design? Does it meet the design intent? Do we need to submit substitution requests? How do we handle that process?
Wow.
So that's just a little piece of the puzzle as it's being put together.
Wow. So I can hear it in what you're saying, that there's an awful lot of detail and expertise and choreography of information flow that could go right or wrong just in arriving at your CD set and a budget or a pricing estimate for your owner, right?
Yeah, we're typically looking at the DD phase drawings. We'll do the peer review around the 50% CD drawings, and then we're getting into that kind of bid buyout phase.
Toward the end of CD.
Right.
And
establishing the GMP.
Sammy, tell me what GMP is.
Guaranteed maximum price. Most of our work is negotiated.
Right, there you go.
80%.
That's what I wanted to go to. So say you've done all this work and you get to the GMP and it's a no-go moment. That number's too big. Even a committed owner is like, no, I'm not going to do it. What happens then?
Well, then you start the VE process.
The quotes, air quote?
Yeah. Everybody knows what that stands for, right?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Value elimination. Yeah. And then we start eliminating value.
Yeah, okay.
Or what they call value engineering.
Is J.E. Dunn Yeah, I like that, value elimination. Actually, I don't like that.
But it's true.
Yeah, it is sadly.
Yeah, and so the building skin is one of the first things to get hit or cut because it's, it's the biggest target.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
On average,
I would say mechanicals because they're out of sight and no one sees them.
Mechanical is also there.
Mm-hmm.
On the
it's behind the wall.
Yeah, the average cost on the exterior skin of a building. I was just looking at this. So obviously for different types of buildings,
mm-hmm.
it's going to be higher or lower based on the mechanical systems, finishes, that type of thing. But the overall average, when I averaged them all out, was about 18% of the total contract value.
Wow.
18% is on the building envelope.
Do you have a sense of what mechanical would be?
Mechanical, I don't have a sense, but I know it's higher.
It is, okay.
It is.
Typically,
it's going to be higher. Now that 18% is a big number. It's a big chunk of the contract value.
So you want to wring it out.
Yeah, so they're going to cut every bit they can out of it.
Wow. Especially anything that won't show up visually later. I guess that's an awful lot for J.E. Dunn to be doing, and yet you still haven't got the green light, the go moment.
Right.
You got some fee that you've gotten paid to go through all that, right? You're not at risk.
Oh.
Are you at risk?
Or
is there different ways there?
We joke for sophisticated building owners and ones that are concerned about quality, they will typically pay you for pre-construction services. Absolutely. You'll get paid
some
for
won't.
that. But for cost-driven owners, you do free con.
Wow. Not pre-con.
Free con.
Free con.
Right.
Oh. Man, and you guys will do that. I mean, I guess...
Yeah.
Tell me, just out of those 10 projects, how many of them are free con and how many, just roughly, are you getting some pre-con service?
I would say 4 out of the 10 are probably free con.
Oh, okay.
So most of our negotiated clients...
not 9. It's not 9 out of 10.
No, it's not. But most of our clients were repeat builders. They just give us the next job and then we negotiate the price on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good.
Typically there's no bid process for that. So that's a lot of our work. Mm-hmm. And then the stuff that we do have to go competitive on, a lot of times you have to negotiate the pre-construction service costs.
Right.
So you'll recoup some of that money, maybe not all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see on the other end of construction now some questions. Let's get through it now. So we got through pre-con.
Yeah.
Naively, I thought we were through it a little bit ago.
All right. And so starting construction.
Yeah, you start in construction. Tell me how your role is, and please try to bear in mind what I'm looking for are tips or information for people to think about a good construction process. Right?
Okay.
So what are you doing next now that you've gotten the green light and you've got a good recipe, your CD 100 set?
Yeah. So now we're trying to set the project up for success, and again, I mainly deal with building envelope.
Mm-hmm, that's fine.
So as concrete starting, so dirt work starting, foundation work starting, concrete starting, we're writing up the quality control plan, the quality action plan.
Wow.
Verifying what tests we want to perform on the building skin, how many tests we want to perform. And
you reuse those QA, QC plans, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
they're specific
modify.
to every project, but we just modify them.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one called the quality action plan. That's where we identify all the mock-ups required, test requirements, and then what to look for on the project. Because I'm only one quality manager, I can't be on 10 jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm working with the project engineers to develop these documents and then working towards field verification.
All right. And now it's starting to go up out of the ground.
Yep. So now we're starting to build the mock-up. So we've got submittals are in, being reviewed, and hopefully approved. You try to get the submittals approved before you start construction of the mock-up. Doesn't always happen. So now we've started the mock-up process. You've got the mock-up built. I'll typically be out there monitoring the build of the mock-up, just to verify the steps, the sequencing, coordination between details.
And someone on you're in J.E. Dunn's installer supervision team is watching your.
Yeah, we'll typically have a skin superintendent assigned to the task as well. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of times that guy's also in charge of the structure, so he's trying to coordinate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, concrete, skin, foundation work, as well as stopping in and, putting an eye on the mock-up.
Wow.
But most of the time, I'll watch it, go through the process. We get it to the primary weather barrier layer, and then that's where we start water testing.
Mm-hmm. And is that a J.E. Dunn testing company or a third party?
So we've handled it a bunch of different ways. If the project and the owner and the design team have budget for it and they require third-party testing, then we'll hire a third-party testing company to come in and do the test. Mm-hmm. If they're not paying anybody for it and they're looking for us to do it as part of a quality control measure, then I will perform the testing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can feel it that it's one of those where it cuts both ways because collusion could be involved if you're testing your own work, and yet who cares more than you in some sense? You could also argue that
we own the most risk on the building.
Yeah.
I know contractors have gotten a bad name over the years, but the sophisticated contractors, the good reputable contractors, they know that they have to build quality buildings.
What's the wise relationship with risk for a contractor? What's the way? I just like that term. We know we own the risk.
So basically, we own the building for the limitation for the statute of repose in the state of construction, right? So in the state of Texas, it's 10 years is the statute of repose. Right. That's the time duration on which you can be sued.
Of repose. It sounds so relaxing.
We own the risk for 10 years.
Wow.
Basically.
For 10 years.
Yeah. And we know that.
And so that's like a game face moment, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, don't pretend we don't. We do.
Right. Because, if the building leaks, who's the first person that gets called?
Yeah.
It's the contractor.
Trevor Brown.
It's not the
and it's a skin.
And it's a skin guy, right? So, they're not going to call their maintenance guy and say, hey, go fix the window. The maintenance guy is going to go, well, this building's only 2 years old. It shouldn't be leaking. I'm going to call the contractor.
Yeah.
So the contractor, I get the phone call. Well, I'm going to call my trade partner who put the window in, and we're all going to go out there and look at it together.
Mm-hmm. And the roof, is that part of the skin?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know it's on the exterior, but in my mind's eye, I've been thinking wall.
No, it's the 6 sides.
It's everything,
so below grade, slab, roof, and the
all
4
6
walls.
sides.
Yeah.
The boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking about all the good stuff. Does anything come to mind on like common pain points or where things go wrong or maybe lessons learned?
Yeah, I think
during this part going up.
Yeah, the process going up is you really have to select the right materials for the right application. Mm-hmm. Is one of the biggest issues I run into. If you're looking for durability and resiliency on your building, but you put in a thin mill system with CEIFs or EIFS, and residential windows, it's not going to perform the way you expect it to.
Yeah.
And especially on these...
and CEIFS is the new version of EIFS, or EIFS.
Yeah, it's just a rebranding, is all it is.
Yeah.
So, we run into like a lot of high-rise multifamily construction, student housing, apartment buildings, those types of things, where they expect this beautiful building that'll perform for 10 years. But they pick the cheapest, crappiest materials that you wouldn't put on your house. And they expect it to work.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they're not understanding the full picture. The pressures are different at level 18 than they are at level 1.
Oh, yeah.
And it's how you design the building, how you expect it to function is one of the biggest problems I run into.
Yeah. Yeah. We refer to that internally here at Positive Energy as the movie set dilemma. It's like ultimately what they kind of want is a movie set. It's
right.
Like, just does it look good? But not for 10 years. They want an actual building. So you're going up out of the ground, and so you said that choosing crappy materials is one problem. It seems like there's always going to be a tension and an interplay between you wanting quality and someone else. I want to say on the hook, but I try not to use that term. But responsible for schedule, right? And you guys are you people are pulling against each other. Like, hey, take your time and do it right. No, get it done.
Yeah.
So is schedule pressure a problem?
Yeah, schedule is a big problem for me. It goes back to the old saying is, you can get safety, schedule, or quality. You can only pick two, right? 2 out of the 3. Most people pick safety and schedule over quality. And so there's a big disconnect on why can't we get all 3. And a lot of it comes down to what we just talked about with, material selection, picking the right products for the right application, and then also subcontractor or trade partner selection. Do you have the right guy doing the right job? And that's where we run into a lot of problems as well is...
Yeah, and turnover in the trades.
Yeah, you have an unskilled labor force and you're trying to build these complex, beautifully detailed buildings, and you got guys that were maybe laying sod last week or waterproofing this week. And it's a difficult discussion to have while you're still trying to maintain quality and safety and schedule.
Man, so that's just stops me in my mental tracks. I knew it's true, but to hear you saying it, like laying sod last week and waterproofing this week, and it's not fair to them. It's not fair to our society in some ways. I was thinking about the Switzerland model again, right? There's 1,000-year-old buildings, and that changes the culture. That changes your experience of that environment. Like, this building has history. And what does it mean to live in a culture where it's like everything's built in this sort of disposable format?
Right.
We're in the weeds now in terms of construction, but it's very interesting. So, but that's a pain point for the business model of J.E. Dunn. It seems like it could go away by saying, well, we'll just hire people and keep them as employees for decades, and they'll be really smart and know their stuff. But then that's expensive, and then you're not competitive.
Right.
So what about subcontract versus employee of the general contractor? Is it a 50-50 split? Most of the laborers are not employees. How does that go down?
So a lot of the big general contractors aren't builders anymore. They're just construction managers or contract managers, right? So you hire a big, sophisticated, and reputable contractor. Well, they might do concrete and they might do rough carpentry, but a lot of them won't do framing, sheetrock, waterproofing. Builders don't build anymore.
But there's not even one person in the company.
They manage trade partners, right? So we're in the process of trying to develop a self-performed crews for concrete, specifically in this market.
Self-performed crews for concrete.
Yeah, and
not everything associated with it.
Right, and in some of our more established labor markets, we do self-perform masonry and millwork and casework, and we'll do self-perform concrete and framing and stuff like that, but not in this particular labor market. So we do have to settle on qualified trade partners. And we have some in-house risk assessment tools we use for that. And we have a program called SMS for our subcontractor management system, where we assign ratings to them. We check their backlog, check their bonding capacity.
Yeah.
So we go through a vetting process to get the best qualified trade partners, but it doesn't always change the labor situation in the field.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that leadership training or group that you were talking about. These must be the issues that are alive at those meetings. Well, and just thinking about the self-perform crews, would you say, in your opinion, that bringing on more self-perform is in its ascendancy? Is it descending? Is it stable?
Right now it's ascending. It's on the rise.
It obviously descended.
during the recession.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 100 years ago, like, the GC would actually be the general contractor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything. And so it's descended during the recession. You mean the 2007-8?
Yeah, but
or the 30s.
Well, actually, yeah, you brought up a good point. 100 years ago, the contractor would be the contractor, and you would probably have one contract with the general contractor, and they would build your building.
Yeah.
But everything's getting because of the legality of the state of construction, everybody's gotten specialized.
Yeah.
And I think the general contractors have gone back to that risk management tool of, I'm going to hire this guy to do this specialty trade work, and then I'll just manage the contracts.
Yeah.
And I think the legal world has kind of forced that model.
And I was just thinking this. So I'm looking to interview a guy we both know, Joe Bash.
Oh, yeah.
relatively soon on the importance of contracts. And now, I was trying to do sort of the chicken and egg causal chain, right? So the legal world has changed the general contracting world. What's changed the legal world? There's probably first cost, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it really does boil down to, I want something, but I don't really want to pay for all the costs associated. Schedule can be a problem, and picking bad materials can be a problem. What about communication obstacles? It seems like, good grief, you only got one mouth. You got 10 projects and how many subs?
Yeah, with everybody trying to use email as the main communication tool, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what your inbox looks like, but
it's terrifying.
Yeah, I've probably got 200 in there right now, just waiting for me to look at them. And probably...
Well, thank you for answering mine and for being here, by the way.
Yeah. And there's probably 50 to 60 of those that actually require a response or some sort of input from me. And the rest of them are just, copying somebody on the email chain.
There's also construction management software tools, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are they helpful? I mean, I've been associated with several projects that use them, and in the course of the project, they'll send me 2 or 3 different logins to different software tools. And I'm just single-family residential, so maybe a year and a half construction.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does this mean implicitly that you didn't like the tool you had before, nor the one before that? Good grief.
Yeah, we have a lot of different software tools that we use in the business.
Are they proprietary, or do you custom built for you? I mean,
a lot of them are custom built for us.
Yeah, for J.E. Dunn, because you're big.
Yeah, so we use CMIC as our main construction management tool, and that handles our
And that's a J.E. Dunn custom tool, or no?
No,
you can buy
Oracle built it.
Okay.
It's customary. They've customized it to J.E. Dunn, but I think there are other general contractors that use it as well. So that's kind of our main construction management tool. We do contracts, RFIs, stuff like that in there. And then we have a license agreement with Microsoft where we use project websites. And that's where we house all of our documentation for the job. Because we try to be paperless.
But it still doesn't help your inbox.
No, because you get emails on all the updates and the changes.
Exactly.
And so the communication tool, the communication's great on the management side, right? So the project manager communicates real well with the trade partner's project manager, and they communicate really well with the architect and probably the owner. And then from that core group is where you start getting some of the disconnect. The communication from the project manager to the superintendent, the communication from the superintendent to the field superintendent, and then the communication from that assistant superintendent to the trade partner, and then the communication from the trade partner to the labor. And that's where you really start to see the breakdown in the chain. And it's where you also start to see the language barrier come into play.
So those of you that are listening, if you just want to rewind 30 seconds and listen to that a few times, I'm serious, Trevor. That was so well said and so important. That's such an important thing. It's like an emperor has no clothes moment. It's not said enough, in my opinion, what you just said. But it's interesting how you said it somewhat dispassionately, like, it is what it is. I'm just... so, but actually, man, it's hard.
But it's not, and so we go through a lot of extra care in trying to make sure that the labor is trained. So when we accumulate our lessons learned from the mock-up, typically it gets incorporated into kind of a little skin book, basically a building skin book. And we'll try to identify the lessons we learned, document them, mark them up on our BIM model, and then that kind of workbook we take out to the field and give it to the field guys.
Boom. So it's like, this is where it usually goes wrong. Watch this spot.
And a lot of times it's not perfect because, they may not understand English, and I have a hard time communicating in Spanish, so I'll have to get, a translator or a third party to come in and kind of moderate the conversation, but it's getting better. Mm-hmm. I've definitely seen it getting better, particularly in the last 5 years I've been here. It's gotten substantially better.
That's such a big statement.
The amount of warranties and the amount of callbacks on buildings has been drastically reduced.
Hooray for you! Hooray for us as a society on doing better.
It's starting to go better.
So, and do you see that as a long-term trend generally, that skins will get better?
I do.
Maybe legality isn't tied into that. Enough lawsuits cause enough pain that even the hard bid projects are like, I'm a hard bid, but I don't want to get a lawsuit.
And we've turned down work from owners like that, who tried to give us projects, and we'll tell them, I can't make money on your job. You're a pain in the ass to work with. I don't want to do it.
That's bold. Yeah, we as a company are deciding, do we talk like that? We're still trying to grow. So tied in here is, I think it was last year, maybe it was 2016, McKinsey consultants did a big report on the state of the construction industry. I don't know if you saw that. It was fascinating. But something like $8 trillion in basically lost value that people were paying for that wasn't getting put into the job site. And it was based on exactly that causal miscommunication chain that you were just talking about, where the management team has good communication, and it's sort of like the recipe maker had good communication, but then within the kitchen, things fell apart.
Right.
And McKinsey's big point there, and I will put a link to that in the show notes, was, good grief, this is lost money, right? There's real impacts from this.
Yeah, when the lean movement started, are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with it. I'm not familiar with when it started.
Well, so for me, I didn't know about it until probably, 2011, somewhere around there, 2010.
Yeah, that's probably when I learned about it.
Yeah, so you've got this big lean movement coming into the construction industry. Now, it worked great in manufacturing.
Do you want to define it real quick?
So lean is just plan, do, check, act. Mm-hmm. A continuous cycle of improvement, I guess is the easiest way to sum it up.
Yeah, well said.
So, it works great in manufacturing. You plan it, you do it, you check it, you make changes. You plan it, you do it, you check it, you make changes. Mm-hmm. And you have this constant improvement cycle happening. And as we're trying to mold it into construction, it's because there is a need for it. Construction is one of the most ineffective practices or processes in our society. Mm-hmm. I mean, well said. We haven't improved at all. Our efficiency is still at 40% or 35%.
How is that measured? Do you know?
We were trying to, I forget who did the labor study, but it was based on like an 8 hours of work for a man.
Oh.
How much actual work in place gets put in place?
Wow.
Right? And how do you track that? So if you have a guy on site for 8 hours, he might get 3 hours worth of work.
3 man-hours worth of work done.
Yeah.
Wow. So that is fascinating and big, because we're seeing a lot about pre-manufactured buildings. And, I think what you're seeing is your industry, our societal institution that delivers buildings to us, wrestling with that inefficiency and wanting to change. But, on the Seton project, you did prefab. which put you in more of a manufactured building mode, right? You took a prefab module and assembled it on site. Because ultimately, you can't not assemble it on site. I mean, I guess you could have like a squadron of Army helicopters and just drop the completed building.
Right. Well, and if anyone's
I'm
familiar
kidding.
with the job site there, we had active construction on two of the sides. You had 15th Street on the front side, and then you had a road under construction on the fourth side.
Oh my gosh.
So you really had one point of access to the job site, 7 cranes on that one parcel of land.
Oh my gosh.
3 were ours, 2 were our neighbors, the other 2 are our neighbors.
Oh my gosh.
And they were within the swing radius of each other, so you're coordinating crane activity with your neighbor. And
it wasn't all J.E. Dunn, was it?
No, it was not J.E. Dunn. I think Hensel Phelps and DPR were right there.
Oh my gosh.
Or maybe it was Beck. But you've got this, there's your symphony of crane movement, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have any site to actually do construction on site. I mean, we could.
Oh, so it wasn't about this
ground.
manufactured building.
No,
approach.
It was out of necessity. And it was an aggressive schedule. So, when we set up the off-site warehouse, and we could pre-manufacture so many of the wall panels. We made common sizes. We figured out how many we could manufacture in this common size range, and then we framed them, sheathed them, waterproofed them, and put in the windows.
Wow.
And we were able to test the windows on site before they left.
And the windows wouldn't
The
break
warehouse.
from shear stress being transferred?
No, we did learn some lessons on how to stack them, that's for sure.
Huh.
So we tried just kind of stacking them at an angle.
Uh-huh.
Not quite a 45, little,
Like 22, 20.
yeah, 22 degrees or something like that. And we had foam wedges on all these panels, but the sheer weight of them, as you started stacking them together, was crushing the sheathing and pushing the foam through the sheathing.
Oh.
So we did learn some lessons, had to go back and do some repairs, but it worked out great. So we were able to control the quality on the thickness of the liquid applied weather barrier. We were able to basically watch all of the windows get installed, stripped in, installed, and then we were able to water test a percentage of them on site.
Yeah.
As production was being done before they got shipped to the job site. And we also pre-manufactured the head walls, the foot walls, and all the bathroom pods at the same warehouse, and then trucked them in and flew them in place.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the wet walls were assembled in
the warehouse. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So we had I think 6 guys frame probably 90% of the building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's the question here, and I love it. That's profound, by the way. We should 6 guys frame 90% of the building. That's amazing. Now they were getting good efficiency.
Yes.
Good man hours. But the underlying question that's really interesting is that this was done because, at least you're saying, because of the job site constraints, not because we recognized that pre-manufactured assemblies would help with efficiency.
Yeah,
If you had a greenfield, you wouldn't have done it.
No, we probably would have did a more traditional method. Now, another aspect of pre-manufacturing that stuff was it did speed up the schedule.
Really?
And,
overall?
Yeah, overall.
Because you're getting more efficiency in the warehouse.
Exactly.
Aren't you? Yeah.
And we knew that going into it. So
why don't you do it other
not
jobs?
just a tight site, but an aggressive
But
schedule.
it costs more. And a quality owner.
Right.
Quality-focused owner.
Yeah. And it's hard to find, a size and space to do that type of mass production. Right.
Yeah. Did you rent a warehouse?
Yeah, we had to rent a warehouse. And then proximity to the site, how do you ship it? How do you truck it? How do you pick it off the truck?
All that. You had to develop systems and procedures to do all that.
Right.
And now they're developed, though. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is it seems like, you say things are on their ascendancy as far as quality, and then pre-manufactured helps with quality, so it seems like pre-manufacturers can become more mainstream. What do you think?
It is. I think it is starting to become more mainstream. There are other
Because of
contractors doing it.
Why? Why is it becoming more mainstream? Is it cost benefit, liability, risk management benefit?
Yeah, from a contractor's money-making plan, right? So as a general contractor...
Oh, you mean you exist to make money?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to say we're here to make money.
Heck yeah.
We're not doing work for free.
Yeah.
You know, so as part of the cost model and how you generate revenue and how you maintain your fee and prevent that fee erosion, you know, with quality issues on site, I do see an increase in pre-manufacture.
And is that...
when you can do it.
Do you think, you know, DPR, Hensel Phelps, Beck, they're all having that same lesson learned?
Yeah, I think so.
I wonder if they'll all start sharing manufacturing facilities, becoming assembly plants. So I don't know how we did it, but somehow it's already an hour. But I wanted to go back to one of the things you talked about early on. You talked about your VDC, which was what, your virtual
design in construction.
And then you mentioned augmented reality in there.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, so we're in the process. We bought the augmented reality systems, right? So I don't know what they're called, the Google Goggle Eyes or whatever thing.
Yeah.
And so they're in the process of making these virtual models that you can basically walk through in augmented reality.
Mm-hmm. I would like you to, we'll follow up. I want to get a contact if you know one. I want to interview somebody about that.
Yeah, our BIM manager in Oklahoma City is piloting it right now.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm on residential, but still, I mean, I do mechanical design. I would love to be able to give people whatever the raw file type is that feeds into those and say, you know, here's the file. If you want to use it, it's up to you.
Well, and basically you can walk through the space without it being built.
Yeah.
And you can walk up to a wall and see the plumbing in the wall, and the wall's not there yet.
So clash detection would be classic.
Yeah, clash detection.
And do you use like differential GPS or something on a job site to...
yeah, they would
probably
they most likely, we use total stations, so you can map or grid out your project's footprint, and then you would put that into the system and build your cloud points, and then you would be able to map where everything goes.
That's so cool. To within what accuracy?
Centimeters.
Really?
Yeah.
That is amazing. I think we covered an awful lot of ground. Do you have any final comments? Any final thoughts?
No, this is great experience for me. I really enjoyed it.
It was a blast. It really was. Thank you, Trevor. And thank you all for listening. Talk at you soon.